They call us Quiet Paws. The name sounds gentle, but our work is anything but. I'm Liam O'Connell, the team's field specialist. The quiet man behind the wheel is Jack Callahan, a former park ranger and the heart and founder of this team. And the one glued to her tablet is Dr. Maya Chen, our brilliant veterinarian. Our philosophy isn't to wait for disaster to strike. We go where it's just passed through. That's why we're here in this truck, patrolling the Gulf Coast. The last hurricane season left a real mess. Not just downed trees, but upended habitats, invisible traps of debris, and wildlife that's either injured or lost. Our job is a silent race against time, searching for the distress calls before they fade to silence. The air inside our truck always has a specific smell. It's a mix of Jack's strong coffee, the faint scent of antiseptic from Maya's kit, and the damp fur of Coda. It's the smell of home. A mobile home that rolls along the forgotten roads of America. This morning, it was the smell of sea salt and hot asphalt as we drove along the Gulf of Mexico, windows wide open to the salty breeze. I was checking my climbing harness, an old habit from my Air Force days. My hands were busy, but my eyes never stopped scanning the landscape. It's a reflex. Jack always says I'm like a hawk, never truly at rest. He was in the driver's seat, his tall, sturdy frame settled behind the wheel, his hazel eyes thoughtfully fixed on the road ahead. His worn-out baseball cap hid his salt and pepper hair, but couldn't hide the deep lines around his eyes. The map of 1,000 sunrises and sunsets in the wild. High tide peaks at 1400 hours, Maya said from the back, her eyes never leaving her tablet. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical but slightly messy bun, a few loose strands falling across her rectangular glasses. She's the one who always brings the science to our adventures, the voice of reason and data. Still gives us enough time to get to the next point, Jack replied, his voice deep and steady, holding the weight of experience. And then it came. Not a bang, but a rupture in the quiet. A crackling, desperate voice from the old marine radio Jack always kept on. It wasn't a standard call, no call signs, no protocol, just pure panic. Mayday? No, not Mayday. Is anyone out there? Off the coast of Key Largo. My God, there's a dolphin. It's crying. It's ramming my boat. I think it wants me to follow it. The three of us fell silent. I stopped what I was doing. Maya looked up, and I saw Jack's jaw tighten. Crying. The word hung in the salty air. Animals don't cry the way people do, but we knew exactly what the man meant. It was the sound of desperation, a language that transcends species. Jack didn't say a word. He just met my eyes in the rearview mirror. A slight nod. I understood. I immediately tossed the harness aside. "Liam, the marina!" Jack commanded, his voice shifting into command mode. He turned the wheel sharply, the truck groaning as we peeled off the highway and headed for the coast. I gave Coda a gentle pat. He was lying at my feet. "Wake up, buddy. We've got a job to do." The German Shepherd Husky mix lifted his head, his bi-colored eyes, one an icy blue, the other a warm, intelligent brown, looking up at me. He let out a soft whine, as if he could feel the urgency too. Sometimes, the clearest language needs no words. It's spoken with desperation. A call for help can cross any distance. As we head towards the source of that signal, let us know down below, where in the world is this story reaching you? About 20 minutes ago, miles offshore under the harsh Florida sun, an old fisherman named Silas had dropped his anchor. His old wooden boat, the Sea Serpent, knew these waters well. With sun-beaten, calloused hands, he was untangling a red snapper from his net, a task he'd performed for over 50 years. The morning's peace was broken only by the cry of gulls and the gentle lapping of waves against his hull. Then he heard the first splash, a loud one, closer than usual. He looked up, squinting. A large, bottlenose dolphin breached the surface, its body arcing through the air before crashing back down. A beautiful sight, but not an uncommon one. But then it jumped again, and again. It wasn't swimming away, it began circling the Sea Serpent. The circles grew tighter, more agitated. Silas put the fish down, his curiosity turning to a sense of unease. Thump. A soft but firm bump against the hull startled the old man. The dolphin had just nudged his boat with its snout. It was floating nearby now, its head above the water, looking directly at him. In those dark, intelligent eyes, Silas saw no playfulness. He saw a burning urgency. The animal let out a series of sharp clicks and whistles, sounds that felt like a plea. It bumped the boat again, harder this time, then swam a short distance to the east, looking back at him as if to say, "Follow me!" Decades on the sea had taught Silas one thing. The ocean has its own language, and its creatures sometimes communicate in ways science can't explain. He felt a chill run down his spine, despite the blistering heat. Something was wrong. He didn't hesitate any longer. He pulled his anchor, fired up the sputtering old engine, and began to follow the dolphin's lead. The animal swam ahead, breaching every so often to make sure he was still following. They traveled for about half a mile before the guide dolphin slowed. It began circling one specific area, its calls growing more frantic. Silas cut the engine, letting the boat drift. He strained his eyes, peering into the clear blue water. And then he saw it. Just a glimpse, a dark shape struggling weakly below the surface, a fluke rising and then disappearing in a desperate, failing motion. His heart sank. Another dolphin was trapped, and it was sinking. He knew he couldn't do anything himself. He didn't have the gear, and getting too close might panic the animal even more. With trembling hands, Silas grabbed his radio. "Mayday? No, not Mayday." His voice cracked. "Is anyone out there?" Our black Zodiac was like an arrow, tearing across the turquoise surface of the water. The engine roared behind us, and salty spray hit my face, but I didn't care. All my focus was on the horizon ahead. Jack, with his steady, calloused hands, expertly navigated the vessel through the waves. The wind whipped at his worn brown canvas jacket. Coda stood at the bow, his legs braced for balance, his black and tan coat flying in the wind. He wasn't barking, just watching silently, his ears erect like two radar dishes, tasting the air. Coda often picked up on signs of life, or distress, long before our gear could. "The tide's rising faster than forecasted," Maya yelled over the engine. She was kneeling in the middle of the boat, double-checking a small oxygen tank and her emergency medical kit. Her navy blue fleece vest puffed up in the wind. I nodded, gripping the handle of the dive knife strapped to my thigh. In my head, a checklist of possibilities was already running. Ghost net, fishing line, plastic debris. Each required a different approach. Each was a potential death sentence if we weren't fast enough. I took a deep breath, tasting the salt on my lips. This was the moment where all the training, all the experience, came together. The feeling was a mix of tension and familiarity, like before a jump into hostile territory. You never know exactly what you're facing, but you trust your skills and your team. "Got it!" Jack pointed ahead. In the distance, a small white dot appeared, an old fishing boat, and around it, the water was churning. A dark shape was repeatedly launching itself out of the water and crashing back down, a frantic dance. As we got closer, the scene became clearer. A large, bottlenose dolphin, its body covered in the old scars of a sea warrior, was circling the fishing boat. It leaped, letting out sharp, piercing clicks, then nudged the hull with its body. Its eyes, as we approached, locked onto ours, a look of pure desperation. An old man with sun-scorched skin stood on the boat, pointing in another direction. "Over there! It's been over an hour!" It kept leading me around, but I didn't dare get closer. I was afraid I'd scare it more. Jack slowed the Zodiac. "You did the right thing calling us." He clapped me on the shoulder. "You're up, Hawk." I pulled on my mask, put the snorkel in my mouth, and without a second of hesitation, I rolled backward off the side of the boat and into the warm water. The loud whirl of the engine and wind instantly vanished, replaced by the almost absolute silence of the ocean. There was only the sound of my own steady breathing and the fizz of bubbles. And then I saw her. The sight will haunt me forever. Beneath the blue surface, a tragedy was quietly unfolding. A female dolphin, slightly smaller than her mate, was entangled in a massive ghost net, a floating wall of death made of nylon. The net was snagged on a dead coral reef, turning it into a stationary trap. Her body was covered in scrapes, some of which were bleeding, creating faint pink clouds in the water. She was suspended, almost motionless. But the worst part was that she was being pulled down. Every time she made a weak attempt to struggle toward the surface, the net only tightened. I saw the male dolphin circling his mate, desperately using his snout to push her body upward, giving her a precious second of air before she was dragged down again. A heroic effort. But he was exhausted. I could see it in his slowing movements. They were running out of time. Both of them. I drew my knife and swam hard towards them. Approaching a large, panicked wild animal underwater is like disarming a bomb. One wrong move, and you can make everything exponentially worse. I slowed down, keeping a safe distance, letting them see I wasn't a threat. The male looked at me, his intelligent eyes wary but holding a sliver of hope. He let out a series of clicks, as if asking who I was. "I'm here to help," I whispered through the snorkel, knowing he couldn't understand the words. I glided slowly toward the female. The situation was worse than I thought. The net wasn't just around her tail and body. A few strands were cinched tight right behind her pectoral fins, a critical spot. I could see where it had cut deep into her skin, which was swollen and raw. The initial plan was simple: cut from the top down, free her head and blowhole first, then deal with the rest. I raised my knife, aiming for the thickest line near her head. But as I prepared to cut, something felt wrong. Every time the animal struggled, she wasn't just getting tighter in the net, she was being pulled down slightly. An invisible, relentless force. I narrowed my eyes, looking deeper, through the murky water, and then my heart stopped. It wasn't just a net. Dangling below the dolphin, hidden in the shadows of the reef, was a massive lead weight, the kind used to sink fishing nets to the bottom. The heavy block of metal was wedged tightly into a crevice in the rock. The net wasn't floating, it was anchored. The dolphin wasn't just entangled, she was chained to the seabed. The tide was rising, and this deadly chain was slowly pulling her to her death. My plan fell apart. If I just cut the lines around her, the tension would shift unpredictably. The net could spring back in a way I couldn't anticipate, possibly tightening even more around her wounds, or worse, causing her to panic and injure herself further. Number 1. I had to go to the source. I had to cut the anchor line. I signaled to the surface, pointing down and making a sign for heavy. I wasn't sure if Jack and Maya understood, but I didn't have time to explain. I took one last deep breath, filling my lungs with air. Then I angled my body down and kicked hard, diving into the dark. The pressure built quickly, squeezing my ears. The sunlight faded, and my world became a deep, dark blue. My chest began to tighten. The lead weight was bigger than I thought, covered in barnacles and algae, and jammed deep into a crack in the dead coral. The main rope, as thick as my wrist, was pulled taut like a guitar string. I didn't have a tank. I just had the air in my lungs and a few precious seconds. I braced myself against the rock with one hand and started sawing at the rope with my knife. It was incredibly tough. The synthetic nylon fibers fought against my blade. My lungs were screaming for air. Black spots started to dance in my vision. Come on, Liam. Come on. I ignored the pain, putting all my strength into every cut. Saw, pull, saw, pull. I could feel the individual strands giving way. Just a little more. The female dolphin above me struggled weakly. I could feel the vibrations through the water. Just when I felt I was about to black out, the rope snapped. A deep thump echoed through the water. The tension was gone. The moment the anchor line broke, I felt like I'd just cut the string on a balloon. The female dolphin, freed from the dead weight, shot toward the surface. I was carried up in her wake, breaking the surface and gasping, the air burning in my lungs. "She's up!" I heard Maya yell. The female was floating on the surface, breathing heavily, but at least she could breathe. The male swam around her, making soft, affectionate noises. Jack had maneuvered the Zodiac right next to me. What was that down there? An anchor! She was weighed down by a lead block, I panted, grabbing the side of the boat. Now comes the hard part. With Jack's help, we gently guided the injured dolphin between me and the Zodiac. She was too exhausted to resist. Maya leaned over the side, her blue eyes sharp with focus. Liam, keep her steady. Those lacerations are deeper than I thought. The risk of infection is high. And so began a delicate surgery on the open ocean. I became a living operating table, my arms holding the huge but gentle animal steady. I could feel her heartbeat through her smooth skin. Jack used a small bucket to continuously pour seawater over her back to keep her skin wet. One strand at a time, I carefully used the tip of my knife to hook and slice through the netting. This wasn't about brute force, it was about patience. The lines were embedded in her flesh, and she flinched with every slight pull. Easy now, girl. Almost there, I whispered, talking as much to myself as to her. Maya handed me a bottle of antiseptic. The moment you're clear, I need to flush those wounds. The last piece of netting, the thickest one wrapped around her pectoral fin, finally fell away. It floated on the surface, a testament to human carelessness. The female dolphin was free. She lay still for a moment, as if she couldn't believe it. Maya was fast and efficient, flushing the open wounds with the antiseptic solution, then administering a powerful dose of antibiotics with a swift injection into her muscle. That's it, she said softly. The rest is up to her and the ocean. We backed away. The female dolphin gave a slow flick of her tail, then began to swim away slowly. The male joined her, and they swam side by side, rubbing against each other in a gesture of pure affection. They made one circle around our Zodiac and the old fisherman's boat. And then, something magical happened. Together, they picked up speed, rushing forward. And then, in perfect unison, they launched themselves out of the water. Their bodies arched against the sun, shimmering, before they crashed back down in a thunderous splash of white foam. It wasn't a jump of panic. It was a dance, a thank you, a declaration of life. I hauled myself back into the boat, soaked and exhausted. Coda immediately came over to nudge my hand. I stroked his fur, my eyes still fixed on the dolphin pair swimming away toward the horizon. The old fisherman on his boat had taken off his hat and was wiping a tear from his eye. Jack put a hand on my shoulder. Good work, son. I smiled, a tired but deeply satisfied smile. I looked into Jack's eyes, then out at the vast ocean. This is why we're here, Jack. This is why.